Hi, welcome to McClatchy Remote Training. Today we're going to be talking about creating a zone or edition on the fly. So let's start talking about why you might want to do that. Most of our newspapers have a plan for every night. For instance, for the Raleigh News and Observer, they have a state zone that gets distributed to early readers all over the state. And then they update a certain subset of those pages for final zone readers. And those papers that include the updated pages go out to a smaller footprint, if you will. If you were to look at the map, it's a smaller footprint. And that's pretty typical. Your paper may have a regular early and later zone. It may not. But it is likely that at some point you'll need to create a zone on the fly. So let's imagine, for instance, that you've published your early zone and everybody's good with the content in it, but then you've made changes for the later zone and that went up to a smaller group of readers, but everybody's happy with that content. And yet there was still a game that was not completed by the time that later zone deadline rolled around. So as is the habit in newsrooms, you ran what you had. You have a story that maybe is not the final story you want to run, but it's got as much information as was available when the deadline arrived. And your intention is to make a swap out in the middle of the press run so that some portion of your readers get an even more complete version of the story. So again, I'm going to be showing you Raleigh as an example, Raleigh that has a state zone and a final zone every day. In this case, they need to do an update to the final zone. So with that amount of explanation, let me just go ahead and get started. As with anything having to do with pages, the key to all of this is to be in the Pages workspace. So I switched to Pages workspace, and I can use my shortcuts up here to find the content I'm looking for. So this is the Raleigh section that's in production today. You can see that it's July 13th, 2014, and I see all of my pages listed over here in the window. Now to create a new edition on the fly, you do that in Page Director. And just like with anything else, there are multiple ways to launch Page Director. I think the easiest way is to work from one of the existing shortcuts, as I've done here. So to get my hook into Page Director, I'm just going to right-click on any one of these pages and open it in Page Director. Doesn't really matter which page I click on because I'm not actually going to perform an action on this exact page. But because I opened Page Director from a single page, it opens in what's called layout mode. Page Director has two modes, planning mode and layout mode. You can see the button in the lower left that allows you to distinguish between them. If you're in layout mode, you've always got a white background. If you're in planning mode, you've got a gray background. As with many of the other things we do in Page Director, we need to be in planning mode to create a new edition. So the working space highlights only a single page because that's the page I opened it with. It's not actually the page I want to work on. So I can leave it there and ignore it, or if I don't want to see it, I can right-click and remove it from the working set, so now it's blank. Either way is fine. What I want to draw your attention to is the date area of the navigation bar. It's down toward the bottom of the navigation bar, and this is kind of the bucket of all available pages to you for that particular pub date. So Raleigh News Observer is the product, and you can see that for this pub date there are three zones, state, final, and production. Production is color comics pages. We can ignore that for our purposes, but you see state and final. This is typical for Raleigh. They always have a state and a final zone. And if you expand these little pluses, you'll see there's actually a first edition in both. So you can kind of see the hierarchy here. The product has three zones in it. Each zone has one edition in it, and the editions are called first. So in this case, I want to create a final second edition. First already exists. I've already been doing pages there. So the first thing I need to do is get it in the middle of this screen here so I can act on it, or to put it another way, make it part of the working set. And so I'm going to drag Final Edition from down in the date portion up to the working set portion, and you can see those pages are now available. And I'm also going to expand Final up here so I can see first. It's kind of repeating what's down below, but keep in mind what's up here is a subset. So to create a zone or addition on the fly, I simply click on the addition that I want to become the basis for the new one. So in this case, first, I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy. And so it creates a second addition now that is based on the first. So that means if I had made changes in final first and had, swapped out the story on 1A, then final second will be looking to that final first page as kind of the parent of it. That's the starting point. And so whichever pages I wanted to go in and update for final second, I would just right click and activate. I want to choose the shared ads editorial as my activation option. I always remember that because it's the longest one. You see the flag turns a color instead of gray. That means it's active for that edition. And then I can save it. Now, as with anytime you're activating pages, if you are activating a page that has jumps on it, jumps to elsewhere in the section, whether you're actually changing those stories that jump or not, you want to activate all of the pages for those subsequent, all of the pages that include stories that jump from the first page. So if I wanted to make a change to the ears on the sports front, and there were stories on the sports front that jumped to page 4, page 5, and page 9, then I would activate sports page 1, page 4, page 5, and page 9. The reason we do that is because you don't know if 5 minutes later someone's not going to come up to you and say, hey, as long as we're going into the first, as long as we're going into that sports front, let's also update the story on the Celtics, in which case it's already active, the jump's already active, you're ready to go. There are also technical reasons you want to do that. It avoids problems with jumps not sourcing or jumps not matching up because you didn't typeset the updated jump page for final. So that's about all I wanted to go over today. And so having said that, thanks for your time.